Hello travelers, welcome back to the Den of the Wanderer. So today on this rousing rendition of the Wanderer Reviews, let's call it, I am reviewing Spellcrafting. Strengthen the power of your craft by creating and casting your own unique spells by Arin Murphy-Hiscock, author of The Green Witch. I think I've done one other book by her on this channel, so I was really interested to read some more of her stuff and get into that. As per my usual, I listened to the audiobook version of this, and let me say, what can I say? It kind of reads like a textbook, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I know you guys are interested in the rating to start out with, so what would I grade this book? It's 4 out of 5 whatevers. I still haven't named those. Named my segment, not my rating system. So definitely still looking for suggestions below. Probably because I'm filming this a couple videos ahead, I will have a suggestion that I've taken by the time this video actually goes up. But in the meantime, 4 out of 5 whatevers. Yeah, this book wasn't bad. It was pretty elementary, really basic. Definitely a good if you have not freshened up on your spellcasting like rules or reasons or etiquette or whatever. Definitely a good refresher read. I would definitely recommend this more though to the newbie witch, the little baby pagan who might need some help coming up with ways to cast a spell. It was very thorough and succinct, which I appreciated. Short intro, got right into the business, and it goes over the why you cast a spell, how you cast a spell, what you need to cast a spell, I guess in essence where you can cast a spell. It does cover circle casting, which was also interesting, but also goes through, all the motions. So let me think. Reorganize my thoughts. This book is like a textbook. I don't know if that's because of how it was written or if it's more to do with the narrator. Gabra Zachman was the narrator, and she narrates all of the books for Arin Murphy-Hiscock's considerable library. And she's not my favorite narrator. She has sort of a drier voice when she reads the stuff. There's not a lot of like feeling, so there's not a lot of like grand intonation or inflection, which I know can be a turnoff to some people, but I kind of like the person who's reading to sound like they're interested in what they're reading, and that's not necessarily the case with the narrator. So she's not a 4-star narrator in my book. She's probably like a 3-star narrator because she is very clear and her pronunciation is very excellent, and she does read at a brisk pace, so I do not feel like the book took forever. Just, a little dry for my taste, especially when it comes to things like this that are more practical than like spiritual, if that makes sense. They're more like applicable, so they're gonna be dry to read anyways, so having a dry narrator on top of that, not my favorite thing. I think that was also a detraction I had from the last book that I read, which was the house cleaning whatever. If I remember, I will link it with this video so you guys can see that if you haven't watched it already. But the book was structured pretty well, really basic and straightforward. Started out with like why you would start casting spells, like what you could use a spell for, the difference between spells and ritual. Gave you sort of a rundown of what you needed to cast a spell, went over correspondences and how to raise energy, a bunch of different methods for that, which I thought were helpful. The only thing, and the reason why I gave this book a 4 out of 5, one, because it was pretty basic and straightforward and there wasn't much to it, or much new to me, I guess is the better way to put it, but also because there's a section in the book on magical ethics, which sort of is summed up by her saying that the ethics of, spell work and magic, it's up to you. Like, you need to decide what's ethical to you. If it doesn't sit well with you, then probably don't do it, because the magic isn't going to work out anyways. The whole, be careful what you witch for, that kind of thing. Which I was like, okay, that's fine. But then she goes through, like, even in the same section, but through the rest of the book, talking about things that aren't ethical. sort of with like a hard line, like never do this because it's not ethical. But like if it's up to you to decide what's ethical, then it's not like her place to tell you what sort of spell would or wouldn't be ethical. And I'm a pretty strong proponent in the you do you sort of ethics. And I'm pretty well aware of the fact, which she even states in the book, like to be aware that whatever you send out, other people are just as likely to send back. So like, don't send out negative things, and you probably won't get negative things back. I don't think it's that straightforward and direct. Like, I don't think the exchange is equal. But I am aware that if you do sort of walk a crooked path, let's say, not necessarily literally, you might get a little pushback for pushing outwards into the universe anyways. But I don't think on a subject such as ethics, it's anyone's place to say whether something is or isn't ethical, especially if they started out by saying you decide your own ethical place. So that was the only thing for me. And since it came up throughout the book, like in regards to love spells and like spells for getting revenge on people who have wronged you, those sort of things came up, and she kind of gave you the hard line of like, this isn't ethical, so don't do it this way, but do it the other way. I was like, disagree. And that's kind of why it sort of detracted a little bit from my take on the book, but also because she gives you some examples of like spells and how to rework them in ways that would work better for you depending on what you have or your own personal ethics. So let's say you wanted to do a spell to get revenge on somebody, like a noisy neighbor, I think is what she uses in her example. She took a really traditional like hoodoo spell without saying it was like traditional hoodoo, which is like hot foot powder, and was like, here's this spell, and then here's how you could do this thing with like, the whole love and light twist on it, where they move away because they get a better opportunity and not because you wanted them to leave you the heck alone. At which point I was like, rude. A little rude. Especially because the spell that she used as her comparison was being taken from, an old folk magic practice, which is still currently used today in hoodoo. So I don't know. It sort of left me with mixed feelings, and I wasn't too happy with that, especially in a book that should have been a dry, straightforward read. But otherwise, I thought it was good, and I would definitely recommend it, not to anybody who would consider themselves an experienced witch, because I do feel like if you have been doing it for a while, you already have most of this information down. Like I said, it might be a good refresher or a good way to like sort of step back, go over the basics, and then get back into it. But I don't know, I didn't take away a lot from it myself, so I don't know if I'd recommend it to somebody with more experience, but I would put it up there, especially in this newer round of magical books that have been coming out, on a recommendation list for a beginner witch, especially because it's like a start to finish, A to Z thing on spells. And one of the questions I get asked most often in my messages is like how to do a spell. And so I think this would definitely be, from this point forward, what I refer people to, because I usually don't even respond to those messages without like something that says like, do your own research. But yeah, now I have something I can say concrete, like this is a good way to format spells and go from there. I did like that she brought up the fact that even though there are attributed meanings to correspondences, some things might just not gel with you. So to definitely search for your own personal correspondences, which I have been preaching, especially since I read Maya Ohm's energy book. I think it's called Energy for Spellcasters. I will put that in the description below, hopefully. If not, remind me. Where she kind of goes over making up your own color correspondences, because different colors might mean different things to different people. And that's the sound of a million children right outside my window, so sorry about that, but they're living their best life right now, so we're just going to go with it. But otherwise, I don't think I have much else to say. These last couple books I've read by Arin haven't wowed me, I guess we'll say. Not like they need to be like super impressive, but I haven't really taken a lot from the books or even retained a lot, because it took me a really long time to remember that I had already read one of her books. But I do like her whole like going through all the different things And her writing style isn't like a put off. So I am gonna probably read some more books. She does have like a Green Witch book, which I think maybe might be a little more interesting, especially since I know that this year she's coming out with a like a follow up Green Witch book on like making a grimoire, I think, which I want to read because I always enjoy books on how to make grimoires because I'm book obsessed. Um, so I might actually go back and read that book before that other book comes out, and I'll let you guys know what I think about that for sure. But yeah, 4 out of 5. Not much else to say about it. Decent book. And I guess that's all I can think of. Have you guys read this book? It's pretty new. Still, I was excited that the audiobook came out so close to its actual like physical release, and I've noticed that a couple more like witchy books have started to do that, where they're coming out with the book in the physical copy as well as the audiobook at the same time, which is a bonus because, as you guys know, that's how I consume the majority of my books right now. But yeah, I've got a couple more books to go over coming up here pretty soon, so definitely look forward to that. And thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of the book in the comments down below. We'll continue the discussion there. Do you have any tips or tricks? Wow, words are hard. For spellcasting? If so, shout them out down below. I would definitely love to hear them, and let's see if we can share some information while we watch these reviews, or while you watch and I make them. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Till next time, happy travels. Bye.